Welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. I have a treat in store for you listeners. I'm thrilled to be joined by Maayan Aviv, the CEO of American Friends of Natal. Maayan was born in the U.S., moved to Israel, fought in the Israeli army, and then moved back to the United States and has really brought a tremendous amount of passion and skills to build the American Friends of Natal organization. We're going to talk all about their work in supporting trauma, PTSD, and mental health in the U.S. and Israel. Super excited for this conversation. Maayan Aviv, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So, Maayan, I always love to get to know the person behind the microphone. That's quite a resume over there. Lots of back and forth. Born in the U.S., moved over to Israel, and now you bring your passion here in the U.S. to support efforts in Israel. Tell me a little bit about what your background is that led you to, I guess, inspire you on this passion.
I would say that really being exposed to both cultures has made me equally Israeli and American. I like to say that my Israeli friends say I'm American and my Americans friends say I'm Israeli, which is very telling. And I think today, following October 7th, even more so, the love I have for Israel and the family that I have there and the people there and the culture there is really what I bring into my workday. I'm all about raising awareness, spreading the word, and educating people and myself along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about Natal previously on the program, and obviously what you are doing right now is supporting victims of trauma, folks suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and overall mental health awareness and support in both Israel as well as in the U.S. And trauma, indeed, you mentioned October 7th, and I was going to go there. There has been a lot of trauma. So give us a background on Natal and what American Friends of Natal is, where you are so privileged to serve as the Chief Executive Officer.
So Natal was founded 25 years ago, over 25 years ago in Israel by a philanthropist, Jude Yovel Rekanati. She herself was an art therapist. And 25 years ago, she said, wow, so many veterans from the Yom Kippur War, so 50 years ago, are coping with PTSD symptoms. And she thought, what can I do to help? And that's how the idea of Natal was founded. 25 years later, October 7th, Natal was prepared as an organization that knows to switch from routine to emergency mode within minutes. Natal has a helpline that operates 24/7. And the helpline is essentially the gateway into the organization. It's the triage. That's where people call and are assessed, and they have a conversation with volunteers that go through a very long and extensive period. And what's unique about the helpline is it assesses every single person that calls, and B, it offers outgoing calls. So it sort of mimics therapy, but in a less commitment type way. And, from the helpline, a person will be referred to our clinical department, community services that we have for resiliency building in a routine mode, not necessarily emergency mode, and our career development unit. So it's really a 360 holistic approach for each person, which makes it very unique and special. And that knowledge that Natal has acquired over the years has also been exported to many communities outside of Israel, including the US. There is actually a helpline that is modeled after Natal in Chicago at the Bright Stars Community Church. It's called the Turn Center. I was fortunate to visit there a couple months ago as they were celebrating their 10-year anniversary. And so that's a partnership that, as a fairly new executive director for the organization, I got to see seeds that were planted over 10 years ago and what an impact they can make on communities and partnerships and extend beyond the global boundaries, as I like to say it.
Absolutely. And I have to say, especially this being a Chicago-based show, Natal has had a tremendous impact and partnership in Chicago. Natal has partnered with Pastor Chris Harris, who has been on this program previously in Bright Star Community, and has helped to transform the lives of many Chicagoans experiencing trauma due to gun violence and more recently some COVID-related pressures. I couldn't be more passionate about the important work that's being done. And Maayan, tell us a little bit about some of the latest efforts in the United States and some of the partnerships that have been established that might be relevant, especially to our entrepreneurial and frankly, listeners that are all leaders within their respective communities.
I will do my best. So Chicago is one, and I will only echo and add to what you've said that when we visited Chicago, I was with members from the Natal team in Israel. The respect everybody has for Pastor Chris Harris and what he's done with his community is really inspiring. Natal Global has had partnerships with UASI, which is the first responders in New Jersey. We've had some work with first responders in Milwaukee, and we've recently connected with the network and presented at the PowerNet conference in Pittsburgh in April or May. Natal had a mental health professional present a session, a clinical deep dive, and a session on anti-Semitism, a rising topic. And so while all of this is going on in Israel and not in anybody's control, Natal is still continuing to gain the expertise that it will eventually export and partner with as many people as possible.
Yeah, that's huge. And really, I want to make sure we spend our remaining few minutes together on the program because I know we will have follow-up conversations. Again, I'm chatting with Maayan Aviv, CEO of American Friends of Natal. I know we'll bring you back on and continue talking about the important work that's being done in Chicago, in the U.S., in Israel, and around the world. But Maayan, the most important thing that we can talk about today is how our listeners can get engaged, can get involved, can support, and learn more. And Maayan, if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the perfect segue to the American Friends of Natal, who have been proudly supporting Natal Israel for the last 20 years. The American Friends of Natal has a professional real estate network that was started by several very young professionals who have really shown up to every single event. We hold quarterly events. Most of them are in New York City. We bring in a speaker from the real estate world and have a little panel and make a connection to the mission we are all supporting, Natal. And I have to say, so one way of getting involved is signing up for a real estate network, joining our meetings. Any idea is welcome, so anyone can feel free to reach out. I love crazy ideas, and when we can make them happen, even better. So that's one way, and it's been really humbling with all the real estate speakers that we've come across. So across the board, the message was find a cause you love and from your heart give. And so, yes, most of the time it's donating funds, but many of the times giving your time, giving your thought, making a connection will really go a long way with the real estate network and in general. And another thing that I am hoping to bring is a mental health affinity group in the United States that we can offer some sort of programming to through the American Friends of Natal.
Well, that's fantastic. Again, Maayan Aviv from American Friends of Natal. I look forward to having you back on. We've already talked about some of these important issues previously on the program, but having you on and hearing your passion for these issues as a whole, and of course the work of American Friends of Natal is tremendous. We'll make sure to link in the show notes to make it easier for our listeners to get in touch with you and your team. Thank you so much for coming on the program. A quick break here and get down to business. We'll be right back.